Now, back here at home, we are expected to find out today if the province will allow Toronto and Peel region to loosen some restrictions in a modified grey lockdown zone, which would allow for more outdoor activities. Joining me now, Toronto's top doctor, Dr. Eileen de Villa, with more on what she is asking for and recommending. Good morning to you, Dr. de Villa.
Good morning.
Okay, so we're going to hear from the province a little bit later on. We know Premier Ford does have an announcement at 9:30 this morning. It looks like that's about the vaccination rollout, which we will get to in a moment. But Torontonians and those in Peel region want to know, how did you come upon this decision to get to a modified grey and not just move to a red?
So, as has been the case for all decisions and recommendations that we've made throughout the course of the pandemic, what we're looking at are our facts and data. What do we know about our current circumstances here? What does the best available science tell us? And what do we see locally about, understanding where our people are at? What's our population feeling and what's happening? So we know our indicators aren't moving in the right direction, unfortunately, at this point in time, because we have variants of concern and lots of transmissibility associated with that, and unfortunately increasing case counts. But at the same time, we have spring weather arriving, and we know from our experience and science that outdoor activities are definitely safer than those indoors. And of course, we know that people have, are experiencing a lot of mental health challenges and challenges around well-being with the prolonged lockdown and restrictions that we've had here. So what we've proposed is something that tries to take all of these things into consideration and at the same time protects and promotes the health of those in Toronto.
Dr. de Villa, can you go into some details? You mentioned the science and the data, and I think a lot of people are wondering, what is that science? What is that data? What is the threshold for saying we go to this modified gray versus a red? Because we get a lot of business owners who are writing us for salons, for nails and hair, and saying, could I potentially do something outdoors? Isn't that less sanitary? Couldn't we do it in a proper way with a number protocol indoors, which would be the case in a red zone? So what are those numbers that you're looking at that make you make those decisions?
So when we're talking about the cases themselves, certainly we're looking at the case counts, but we're also looking at, for example, the weekly case rates that we're seeing per 100,000 population. We're looking at our hospitalization numbers. We're looking at that reproductive number, that really important number that tells us whether our outbreak is growing or whether in fact it's shrinking. And right now, our reproductive number is above 1, and that tells us that the outbreak here in our city is growing. When we're talking about the data and the facts and the science around how best to control transmission of COVID-19, we know that when you're in larger airspaces, big open airspaces, and particularly outdoors, the likelihood of transmission of COVID-19 from one person to the next is significantly reduced. We also know that mask wearing and proper infection prevention and control practices certainly work. So it is taking the combination of these things all together to try to figure out, how do we establish the best balance, and how do we try to provide more access to activities and things that actually make life a little bit more livable. Because we know that there are significant mental health consequences, health and economic consequences all together that have to be considered as we think about what makes the most sense for the health of Torontonians. Yes, from a COVID-19 perspective, but also from a broader health perspective.
Doctor, when we look at this race between variants and vaccines, how would you put it? And how quickly would one be winning?
So, Mel, you're absolutely right. We're looking at a race between vaccines and variants. We know that the variants of concern are increasing here in our city and throughout the province. At the same time, we're starting to see more vaccine supply coming, and we know that these vaccines are incredibly effective, against those most serious outcomes associated with COVID-19 infection. So it is close, but frankly, it's up to all of us. The more we are able to continue to practice the measures for self-protection that we've spoken about for so many months now, distancing, masking, washing our hands, the more we're successful at doing that, and the more we're able to get those vaccines into arms, the sooner we're going to get to the other side of this pandemic in a safe way and be able to start to restore some of those activities that we're so desperately missing, because it's been a long time, let's face it.
So desperately missing and so desperately needed for a lot of these businesses who really are struggling right now. So I want to shout out a lot of the businesses who are just trying to survive right now. Survive and thrive is not even on their radar. Survive right now business-wise. I want to ask you this. Once the province announces this potentially modified gray, how quickly can we see this put into place? Mayor John Tory said it could come quicker than next week. I mean, could we see something change as early as tomorrow?
So, again, I have to leave some of these decisions in the province's hands. These are their decisions for sure. But, we will do everything we can here. I know I speak for my colleagues here throughout the city to do whatever we can to facilitate, as quick action as we can. I mean, I am incredibly sympathetic. I really am to all the businesses and to the people that are suffering out there. No question, this has been an incredibly challenging experience for all of us. But this is not unique to us. It is an experience all around the world. So what we're trying to do is find that balance, find a way really, that we can mitigate the risk associated with COVID-19. But again, think about those other conditions that contribute to health, including business and activities and all the things that we're used to having in our daily lives. We really are trying to manage this very, very delicate balance and are constantly thinking about how best to continue to provide the best advice to both protect and promote health overall for Torontonians.
Dr. de Villa, we appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a very busy schedule. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 7:12 is your time right now. And again, the provincial announcement, we don't know what time that's going to be happening. We know the Premier has an announcement with vaccine rollout at 9:30 this morning. So we'll be watching all of that for you, citynews.ca. Right now, we're traveling this on way. That's not a phrase, this on way, but over to Sid and Devo. Hey, guys.
Morning, Val.